6th of July 2023. This is one of my Let's Talk Skidmarks, and this Skidmark was triggered by a question that one of the YouTube followers sent me. He sent me a set of questions, but I can't handle all of them in one Skidmark. And his first topic that he wanted me to talk about is the youth feels left out. And this was sent in by Musi J. Nkosi. Now, to talk about the youth is actually it's a touchy subject, because our society, and if I say society, I mean the people of South Africa, have been infested with something that the XXX planned well, and they have used it all over the globe in all countries where there were multicultural societies, and that is racism. Now, the racism achieves a very important thing for them, and that is that it keeps the society busy fighting one another, groups fighting one another, and the focus is on the interactions and the aggression and the conflict between groups in the society, and they don't pay attention to what this evil XXX is doing to the whole society. And it worked well. You have to admit it. You just need to go onto the social media pages, Facebook and Twitter, and you will see that the vast majority of interactions between people there is race-based. And it is like a cancer. It will eventually destroy the whole society. But the XXX, they are happy because they get what they want. Society is not focusing on what they are doing. Now in South Africa, there is a lot of stories about our democracy and our fantastic constitution and so. But another viewer made a valid remark, and he said, if the constitution was so fantastic, why hasn't it been implemented in other countries? That is something to think about. But let's get back to the youth feeling left out. That is primarily because of the political system. They tell you this is a democracy, but look at what happens in practice. You live in a rural village or a small town somewhere in rural South Africa, and when you get into that voting booth, you've just got options to vote parties, and you vote for a party, but locally there was representatives of that party that canvassed your vote, and you liked the guy that was talking to you and all of that, and they tell you that they have sent the names from that village or from that town, the names that they want as representatives have been submitted to the controlling body of that party. And then the votes are counted, and we've got a proportional voting system, and a small group of people, the IEC, sits down with all the political parties and say, okay, you have got 100 seats, you've got 50 seats, you've got 20 seats, you've got 30 seats, you've got 10 seats, you've got 1 seat, things like that. That is how it happens, and we're all aware of that. But that is the moment that the shit hits the fan. Because now, a small group of a political party is going to sit at a table and they are going to decide who's going to go down to Parliament in Cape Town. And that is where the shit starts. All of a sudden, you, living in the rural South Africa, in a village or in a town, your vote doesn't count anything. Because the elite is going to decide who they are going to send down to Cape Town. And unfortunately, in the ANC, we know that the ANC is built on patronage and cadre deployments and favors for friends and cock like that. So they send people that they feel are influential and is important to the ANC, and people that they need to put there to repay favors and cock like that. And you end up with what is sitting down in Parliament representing you, and I'm talking about the ANC because they're in the majority, so they're basically the government. And the ANC is also driving a serious racist program. Now, do yourself a favor and then go and Google and look at photographs of the South African Parliament in sitting. And you see among those parliamentarians sitting there a lot of old people. Many of the photographs, they will be sitting there sleeping and all of that. But that is already very disturbing. But there was a survey done by a major auditing group in South Africa, and it came back, they surveyed all the municipalities, and it came back that 80% of the representatives sitting on the municipal councils, 80% could not read or understand a financial document. Now, that may sound to you irrelevant, but this can be projected into Parliament as well, and it will be fairly the same. Your problem is those incapable people sitting there representing you and must look after your future. They cannot read a financial document. And here comes the, let's call it a shitstorm. They vote on budgets. They haven't got a fucking clue what they're voting about. They vote for budgets. And look at this. Then you get a guy like this, and he ends up becoming a minister of a major department, railways. He cannot even manage a spaza shop, but he's in charge of the South African railway network and the roads network. Now ask yourself, how the hell can that be a good plan? Vusi Thembekwayo made a speech about this and said, you elect people that has built nothing, and then you wonder why nothing gets built. That is the reason. There is the beginning of your problem as youth. These guys, they have got a problem to look after themselves. How the hell are they going to look after you? Forget it, it's not going to happen. And then you get a woman like this. This is currently the Minister of Finance. Now you can go and Google it. She had a farm near Potchefstroom. And I'm not going to talk how she got hold of the damn farm, but the fact is, the farm animals in her care died of hunger. The SPCA had to step in and salvage what could be salvaged. And it was a horrific fuck up there. And she didn't pay her workers. And then you, the youth, wonder why you don't have schools, why you don't have technical colleges, why you don't have technical schools where you can learn skills to prepare you to one day contribute to society by being productive. And if you are committed to what you are doing and you've started your own little workshop and you're doing your welding job there from skills that you learned at the technical college, you now have your own welding shop or engineering shop and you employ people, it will not happen because the basics is gone. The technical schools has been closed. The technicons has been closed because they started that absolute ridiculous thing. Everybody must go to university. Now let me remind you of how it worked in my young days. I was in a group of school children that was monitored by, those years we called it the RGN, die Raad op Geesteswetenskappe, something with human sciences or something. But the fact is they monitored me from grade 1 until I was 21 years old. Every year I had to write a set of tests and there was a lot of things involved in it. And all these pupils in the school was tested every year, aptitude tests and IQ tests. And based on the results from those tests, from standard 1, the teachers will already begin to select and divide the pupils into groups, and a certain groups would be going for technical skills because the test just proved that they were not capable of doing academical work. So by the time you get to matric and you have to apply for entrance into university, first of all, if your aptitude test didn't indicate you as a good candidate for an academic qualification, you will not get into university. Simple as that. So, your attitude is right, your IQ is right, everything is right, but then you still had to get a certain percentage for every subject to qualify for entrance into university. What did the ANC do? They dropped the pass rate down to 30%. So they can bullshit the nation and tell them that the education system is doing well. In the meantime, they lowered the pass rate. So people passed. Pass rate at 30%. In my days, the pass rate was 50% and for certain subjects 60%. And to get into university, for certain subjects, I had to get at least 80%. At least. Below 80, no way you're going to go to university. That is how it worked. And that is why in the 70s and 80s, even in the 90s, the South African school system produced high-performing students, and the universities produced high-performing professionals. Professionals that were capable of what was expected from them. All was done on merit. There was no such thing that your skin color qualified you for a position in a university or a technical college or what. And incidentally, before you come with your apartheid kak, I worked for a portion of my life in the homelands with black colleagues. We were on the same scale in that government department, same ranks and all of that. Black people. I worked with many black lawyers. I worked with many black advocates. All of them well qualified, highly skilled, highly capable. I worked with black civil servants, highly skilled, highly qualified, capable. That is how it operated. And it was a system like that that provided opportunities for the youth. And don't let anybody tell you different. The apartheid regime did not only provide education to white children. They provided education to black children. Yes, they couldn't provide to all the black children, but they provided to a large population of black children. And then in the 70s, the ANC came with this cuck, freedom before education. And they fucked the schooling up. But they fucked the lives of the school children up. But why do they care? It's not their lives. So there was a lot of political issues involved that, and this question was specifically pointed to me referring to the black youth of today. Now, if you look at the Xhosa generation, the way they operate, you get somebody on Twitter saying something like this. First of all, look at that handle. That person is making big assumptions about her own self-importance. And then she tweets, black people invented everything. Now, you and anybody listening to me knows that is bullshit. But you should see the following she has and the cheering she got for making a stupid tweet like that. What does that tweet actually do? It just installs a false sense of importance. False! That's what it is. So you're living in a make-believe environment, not in reality. Look at what happens in practice. Take a young white guy with, let's say, plumbing skills. He will start his own business and he will have a second-hand bakkie with his toolbox, and that's it. And he will be driving around with that bakkie, doing a lot of the work himself, and many times he will have one guy working with him, a helper. But they will work the whole day and he goes home at night, covered in dirt, covered in grease, covered in whatever. And his bakkie is not the shiniest bakkie on the block. You look at that bakkie and you can see that thing is working. And I'm going to tell the things that I'm telling you now is stuff that I actually experienced in reality, in life, in businesses. And then you get a young black guy and he manages to get a tender. We all know them, the tenderpreneurs. And he gets a tender to provide a specific service to a government institution. And what is the first thing he does? He buys a flashy, fancy car. The next, he goes and he starts buying Gucci and all those expensive brand clothes. And it's bling from the top to the bottom. And 2 years later, the bankers repossessed the car because he couldn't keep up with the payments because he didn't get another tender. Well, that guy with his bakkie has now got 2 bakkies. And the guy that originally started with him is now in charge of his own team with his bakkie, and now there's 2 bakkies in that business, but still not shiny brand new stuff, workhorses. So it is a matter of attitude, and that is important. It is tweets like this, black people invented everything, that makes people believe they can be everything, which is bullshit. You cannot be everything. Some people can be lawyers. Some people can be engineers. Some people can only be in the artisan sector. I said to a guy, and I was in a discussion on WhatsApp with a guy, a black guy, and we were talking about it, and he said to me, what is the difference? Why is this not working? And I said to him, it's about attitude. It's all about attitude. You have this problem that people are being told now they can be anything and everything, but they don't have the skill set for that, or they don't have the aptitude for it. It is not just, everybody cannot be a welder. Everybody cannot be a surgeon. Everybody cannot be a chef. This is the problem. Reality has been put through a food processor and minced into bullshit, and that is what the young people, they are living that bullshit. And then they spend 5 or 6 years on university and they get a damn degree, and it is a useless degree. A degree in some humanities. I call that tree climbing degrees. And then they get out of university and they realize that they can't find a job. Why can they not find a job? They got now a degree in human resources. Every big company, and it must be a very big company, will have one human resources official. That's it. But that same company that's got one human resources official, most probably has got 100 laborers doing whatever, practical work, where they had to work with their hands. And I said to this guy who asked me about it, and I said to him, you must understand, South Africa was built by artisans and laborers. Artisans and laborers built South Africa under the guidance of engineers and architects and things like that. But the actual building was done by the artisan guys, bricklayers, the welders, the fitters and turners. Those are the people that actually, when I finished my university and I went to say goodbye to the dean of the faculty, he said to me, you know, Colleen, I'm going to say something to you now, and now we're talking 1976. I'm going to say something to you that I shouldn't say to you, being the dean of the law faculty. But in 10 years' time, there are only going to be 2 people in South Africa that will be guaranteed to have food on their table. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the person that can sell something and the person that can fix something with his hands. Those 2 classes of people will always have food on their table. Now, how the fuck must I feel? I studied law, and this is what the dean says. But look around you. Amazingly enough, those are the people that are actually every day eating. The salesmen and the artisans. Guys that can fix a thing with his hands. They are always in demand. But the system that you, the sausage generation, is living in, looks down on that guy that can work with his hands. That is sad. And come back to this tweet. Black people invented everything. You know, as you read it, you actually know it's bullshit. But still, thousands believe that bullshit. And then you get a tweet like this. Now this person calls herself Professor Vinka. A kid born in 2010 is now 18 years. Let that sink in. And this tweet was done on the 18th of July 2018. So a kid born in 2010, according to her in 2018, that kid is 18 years old. Now, how much mathematical skills must you have to know that that is bullshit? And then she comes back and she says, I never thought I would need to explain a basic math, but since we are here, a kid born in 2010 is now 2010, now is 2018, so you add the 10 to the 8 is 18. Simple math, and she puts a smiley next to it. So the kid is 18 years in 2018. Simple. For fuck's sakes. You tweet something like that and you come back and defend your stupidity. From 2010 to 2018 is only 8 years. But she gets 18. And there's your problem. So, to come to conclude this, the young people feel left out. Main problem for feeling left out is lack of skills. Skills that can be applied in industry, in commerce. You've got no skills. And the skills that they teach you is of such a low standard that industry and commerce don't want to accept that. Currently in South Africa, we've got a ridiculous situation that a matric, the business world don't even look at a matric because that matric is useless. A lot of matriculants cannot read properly. They cannot read with comprehension, but they've got a matric. That is a big problem. So the destruction of the education system and the reduction in quality is the basis of your problem why you are left out. And why did that destruction happen? Because the people that you voted for is incapable. They cannot do it. And I'm going to refer back to Vusitemba. You vote for people that has never built anything, and then you wonder why nothing is getting built. So I feel very sorry for the youth, but now the youth is making their problem even more complicated and more devastating by allowing militants to make them militant. They allow these militant political people to fill their minds with, let's call it stupid shit. And the most destructive thing that they are installing in your mind is racism. Now, in my life, I have trained literally hundreds of black people, given them skills with which they could go ahead. I had a situation where 3 of my workers decided that they wanted to start their own business. That's in the timber frame construction business. And they asked me, okay, what is the basics that they should look at? And I helped them and said, okay, this is what you need and that and that and that. And all 3 of them started their own operations. But the one guy, and I told them from day one, whatever you do, never take a government tender. Never. Don't touch it. But the one guy got a tender for some hop houses. That guy got a massive amount of money, flashy car, flashy house, flashy clothes, flashy everything. And 2 years later, he was gone. Lost everything, because we all know how the government works. They don't pay the contractors on time. And that guy fell in that pit. The other two did private jobs. And it's now 14 years later, and they're still going. They put food on their table, they've got a comfortable life, and that's it. I had a youngster contacted me on Facebook, a black guy, and he said to me, listen, I'm working at the government, but I want to start my own catering services. What do you suggest I do? I'm looking now for premises. And I said to him, why are you looking for premises? Where are you living? No, he's living with his parents. I said, now, isn't there a garage on your house? He said, yes. I said, but that's where you start your business. So he went and he fixed the garage up, and he put the stove in and the oven and things like that, and he started in the. And then about 6 months later, he contacted me again. We had a lot of contact in the meantime, but 6 months after, he said to me, but now I'm running into a space problem here. I think I must now go and get myself a premises here in one of the centers. And I said, that premises is going to cost you a fucking fortune. Your work, the product that you are delivering is so good that the people found you in a garage. Why do you want to go into a commercial center? Is there not room in your yard to put a container in? And he said, yeah, we've got lots of room. And I said, now there's it. Go and find a second-hand container and expand your kitchen like that. And he did it. And now, that was in 2009. Where are we today? 2023. The guy has got a booming business, and he's working out of the garage and 2 containers, and that's it. Just think, how much did he save on a rent? If he had to pay rent from the day one, he couldn't make it, because in the beginning the business couldn't take it. And this is the thing that I discussed with that guy that asked me, what did I think went wrong? And I said to him, the BEE system that was implemented and cheered on by all of you young blacks, everybody was happy. That BEE thing did something very bad to South Africa. It robbed the young upcoming black people of mentors, because specifically Afrikaners, they like to teach people, they like to help people, and I've seen it happening, where a young black guy will walk into an engineering shop and talk to the owner and say, look, I want to do this, something similar to this, and the old guy helps him and all of that. I spoke about it in some of my Skidmarks. So, what BEE did is make the white people close their hands and step back and say, that's it. I'm not going to create any jobs, and I'm not going to do any skills transfer. That's it. And think about that. The government services has collapsed. You cannot deny that. There's basically not a single government department that is functional anymore. Why did it collapse? Because of lack of skills. In 1994, South Africa had one of the most professional government services in the world. But through affirmative action, all the whites were driven out of government, basically all the whites were driven out. The right thing would have been at that point for a clever president to say, okay, from the top level in the department to this level of management, all these people here, all you white guys, each one of you must take 2 trainees. 2. So every one of you will train 2 people. And in 6 months' time, we will evaluate that trainees. And the ones that are making it and performing, they will get their own clusters in the department to man and to staff and to start delivering service. And by that, in a year's time, a single department would have been capable of delivering 3 times more service. But no, you thought you were clever, chase the white guys away. The white business, specifically the white small business sector, was a gold mine for South Africa. But through your racism, you destroyed your own future. And that's the pity of this. And yes, you can sit now and swear at me and tell me I'm a stupid old white racist apartheid priester and shit like that. If that makes you feel okay, go for it. If that puts food on your table, go for it. But from what I know, your racism rhetoric is not going to put 1 cent in your bank account. It is not going to feed your children. It's not going to pay for the roof over your head. It's going to make you feel strong to tell me I'm a settler or whatever you want to. But you will gain Zippo from it. I hope you find this little talk of value. But you need to think about the things that I said. The problem starts by you voting. Your vote gives you a leadership that is totally incapable of leading you. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.